The Upper Iowa is one of the most scenic rivers in the country and one of the most prized in Iowa. It winds its way through Howard, Winneshiek, and Allamakee counties before eventually feeding into the Mississippi.
The river is a popular spot for canoeing, kayaking, tubing, and fishing. National Geographic Adventure says canoeing the Upper Iowa is one of the top 100 adventures in North America.
Adventure!
Canoe outfitters can be found throughout the river valley, offering equipment and transportation for paddlers.
Outdoor enthusiasts have access to several campgrounds along the shores with easy river access, and lodging in nearby towns that welcome visitors. The gorgeous views throughout Iowa's bluff country are punctuated by stunning wooded bluffs and limestone palisades, some rising more than 300 feet above the river's edge.
The area is an ecological treasure, featuring prairies and wetlands that provide critical habitat for a variety of fish and wildlife.
Nate Hogeveen, the DNR's Director of River Programs, has written this book, Paddling Iowa. It's a must-have guide of resources and access points for Iowa's 1,800 miles of rivers. You're doing a good job up there, Kelly.
Hogeveen says there's plenty of diversity along Iowa's waterways. And because there's something new around each bend, being on the river should float just about anyone's boat.
Looks like fun, doesn't it? But what appears to be child's play is actually serious rescue training for whitewater kayakers. That said, Nate Hogeveen, a freelance writer and recreational consultant, is having and does have fun whenever he's near water.
I'm all over the map. I like everything about paddling. So one day it's solitude, another day it's adventurous whitewater paddling, another day it's enjoying time on the river with friends. There's just so much that the rivers can give us.
That may help explain why Nate jumped at the opportunity to spend more than 100 days exploring 1,800 river miles in preparation for writing Paddling Iowa.
I wanted to share information about Iowa's rivers with Iowans. I wanted for people who live here to understand that they don't necessarily need to drive halfway across the country in order to have a wonderful, wild experience.
Paddling Iowa is divided into day trips that range from approximately 3 to 20 miles on 34 of Iowa's rivers and lakes. The guide offers information on river access, water levels, camping opportunities, historical points of interest, maps, and other important aspects of the paddling culture. Nate also takes every opportunity to emphasize safety as part of a great paddling experience.
Water is, something that inherently we can't breathe in, so you want to stay on the surface and just make sure that you kind of know what some of the hazards are so that you can be aware of them. And most of them are pretty easily avoidable once you know what they are.
Learning about potential hazards seemed like the perfect excuse for a river trip. Nate agreed, so we packed up our kayaks and headed to the Des Moines River.
Well, Nate, what should we be thinking about in terms of safety before we even get in the water?
Well, the one thing that we're doing right so far is we're wearing our personal flotation devices, and that's just extremely important. That way you can float even if you're not conscious, if your kayak happens to flip over.
Yeah. I also noticed that we're putting in below this dam here. Is that really important?
That's extremely important. What happens with the Lowhead Dam is that there's recirculating hydraulics underneath the water that can really hold a person down under the water. They're exceedingly dangerous, and they do kill paddlers, unfortunately. So it's a great idea to take out well upstream of a dam if you come upon one, portage clear around it, and put in well downstream of the dam.
Okay, well, let's get in the water and talk about some other stuff.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
Nate continued his safety lesson by pointing out snags, eddies, and other tangible features that can spell trouble on the water. He also pointed out that Iowa's riverways are among its few remaining native landscapes. As such, he believes they are something of a treasure.
I really don't think we experience the true Iowa from a car. When we get on a river, things just completely change. Your mindset changes, your view of the world changes. You're at the bottom of a river valley looking up. You're surrounded by trees and woods and wildlife all of a sudden. These corridors are just magical places.
Nate's appreciation of Iowa's rivers has heightened his awareness of the challenges they face.
So how would you evaluate the health of this particular river?
It's kind of mid-pack in the range of, if it's not one of the most disturbed rivers, and it's not one of the best, but it still has a fair amount of nutrients, nitrates and such.
Seeing the rivers and in some cases what happens to them leads me to be a very conservation-minded person, especially concerning water quality. I think that as Iowans we can do a much better job of protecting our rivers.
Despite Nate's concerns, his guidebook showcases Iowa as a great place to paddle.
Before I started the guidebook, I was in Madison, Wisconsin at a big canoeing expo, and I was talking to the author of a guy who's written guidebooks on Wisconsin and Illinois, and a fellow overheard us, and he said, "You're working on a guidebook for rivers in Iowa? What for?" And I looked at him and I said, "We've got plenty of good rivers here in Iowa."
Like the breathtakingly beautiful Upper Iowa, with its looming limestone cliffs and wooded corridors, where Nate and I paddled for 2 hours one chilly fall morning. The swallows' nests and stands of balsam firs, even a huge eagle's nest, add to the magic of this world-class river. Nate hopes his book will raise awareness of the breadth of paddling experiences in the state.
There's anything from very tranquil experience on a slow river, or, some lakes are very wonderful little tranquil experiences too. Then it ranges to, large bodies of water like Lake Red Rock or some of the places on the Mississippi, to these wonderful little rocky streams that have very adventurous whitewater in them.
Novices can find help getting started at sessions like this one at Gray's Lake in Des Moines.
There's a saying that we've been using more frequently lately, that paddling with two friends makes a rescue, and paddling with one friend makes a witness. It's a really good idea to paddle with people who are more experienced than you are, especially when you're first starting out.
Once a beginner feels more confident about paddling, he or she might want to participate in one of the many projects around the state that combine conservation and fun.
As it happens, the DNR is doing Project Aware, which is now drawing, up to 200 paddlers and more for a week-long trip down an Iowa river and pulling enormous amounts of trash out of some of our rivers.
Nate readily admits he's on a mission to increase the number of paddlers in the state and the quality of their paddling experiences. At the deepest level, he seems motivated by the belief that a few hours on the water can lead to the best kind of natural high.
I'm looking for that fix. We all work these jobs, and when you sit at a desk for a long time, you start to get in a frame of mind where the mundane seems to be everything, but you get out on a river and that just all goes away instantly. How many things can do that for a person?